Hey everyone, it's Jose Laya, and we're back. We hope you're doing well. So the third quarter numbers are out, and we want to share them with you today. But first, and more importantly, we're happy to announce that finally, after a couple years of stubbornly high interest rates, the Federal Reserve just a couple weeks ago lowered interest rates by 50 basis points, or by half a point, for the first time in a couple of years. The best thing they did was not only lower interest rates by half a point, they gave the indication to everyone that they're going to be lowering rates for the next year or so. Obviously, that's positive news for the market and for buyers that have been on the sidelines waiting for this to happen. But for today, we want to highlight the third quarter numbers. We're going to do, as we always do, we separate them in between single family homes and condos in some of the more popular areas of the Miami real estate market, areas that we know well and that we've been doing business in over the years. So we have a lot to cover. We're going to do as we always do. We'll start with single family homes, then we'll do the condos, then we'll wrap it up with our summary on what we saw in the third quarter and where we feel this market is headed. So we have a lot to cover. Let's jump right into the first graph, which is single family homes. Here we go. Okay, so we have our first graph up for single family homes. We're looking at the data for the third quarter closed sales in the same areas that we always cover, which is Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, Pinecrest, and Miami Beach, specifically South Beach, which it's 33139 down there. We have two separate graphs. The first one we'll show you is the third quarter data compared to first and second quarter of this year for 2024. And then we're going to show you a graph that compares third quarter data of 2024 this year compared to last year, just to kind of see where things are relative to last year. So let's jump right into the numbers. First column we have is Coconut Grove. And you'll notice right away there is a huge drop off from the second quarter to the third quarter for the number of sales in Coconut Grove. That doesn't alarm us, as here in Miami, in South Florida, the summer season is typically slower than the spring. So that's not too alarming to us, but let's just go right over the numbers. So it went from 58 to 26, but look at the pricing. It went up about 3%. Coral Gables, sales actually increased from 91 to 102. Pricing off just a bit, but kind of holding steady. In Pinecrest, the number of sales also decreased from 58 in the second quarter to only 40 in the third quarter. Pricing kind of held on there, as you could see. And again, for those that haven't seen it before, in South Beach, we break up the numbers into two because there's a huge disparity in Miami Beach and South Beach between non-waterfront homes and waterfront homes. Look at the numbers. The number of sales was pretty close, but the price per square foot is just astronomically different. You've got a price per square foot of $11.87 in the second quarter for non-waterfront homes in Miami Beach, and then it jumped up to $14.51 for the waterfront homes. Look at that. It went from $2,900 a foot in the second quarter to $3,500 a square foot for waterfront property in South Beach. That's unbelievable. What we can gather from just looking at this relative from the first to second quarter, we did see a slight decrease in the number of sales in Coconut Grove and Pinecrest and in Miami Beach as well. In South Beach, you had 17 sales in the second quarter and only 9 in the third. So there was a bit of a deceleration in the number of closed sales. However, if you look across the board, pricing is slightly increasing or holding steady, which is pretty indicative of where the market's been for about the past year, where we do see the number of sales decrease, but then we're seeing pricing holding for single family homes. So that's this data. Let's jump into the next graph, which compares the third quarter of this year to the third quarter of last year to see where we are. Here we go. Okay, so here's our second graph for single family homes, and here we compare 2023's third quarter to 2024's third quarter. Here we go. Let's just go across the board. What we notice right away, if you look at the percent change, which is that bottom row there, you'll notice you see mostly green. Green means it went up, which is a positive sign. Coconut Grove, actually, the number of sales held steady at 26. You did have a slight increase in pricing of about 8%. Look at the number of Coral Gables. It went from 63 last year to 102. That's a huge increase, 62%. Again, pricing up 11% from last year's quarter. Pinecrest decreased from 52 sales last year to 40, but pricing increased again 3%. South Beach last year, combining waterfront and non-waterfront, there was 13 sales. This year there was only 9, so that one did have a slight decrease, but again, pricing is up, as we could see, 11% for non-waterfront and 38% for waterfront property, single-family homes in South Beach. What we can gather from these two graphs that we just showed you for single-family homes is that the single-family housing market here in Miami, I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest with you, it's very strong. It's just very sensitive to price. We keep noticing sometimes the number of sales declines a little bit, but pricing is pretty much holding steady across the board. Another thing we want to highlight in these videos is that people have asked me, Jose, what do we do with these graphs? What do we do with these numbers? Honestly, these numbers are just for you to use as a guide. Okay, like let's say Coconut Grove in the third quarter, the median price per square foot was $1,017. In the Gables was $897, and in Pinecrest was $802. These are median price per square foot. This is just to give you a guide. You know, it doesn't mean that if you're in Coconut Grove and you pay $1,200 or $1,500 a square foot, that it's necessarily high. This is just a guide. That's all it is. Kind of tells you and it gives you a good indication as to what to expect for the neighborhood. Obviously, location within that neighborhood, quality of construction, details, floor plan, etc., etc. That'll really determine your final sales price. So we put these numbers up here to give you a guide. That's really all it's for, just to kind of give you an indication as to where the market is headed. So now that we've covered the single family housing market, we're going to jump into the condo market. We're going to do the two same graphs, but for condos. Here we go. Let's jump into that now. Okay, so here is our graph for the condo market. We're doing the two graphs. We're going to start with the first one, which is the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter of 2024, just to kind of give us an indication as to where this market is today versus where it started at the beginning of the year. We cover the same areas that we have in the condo market, which are downtown Miami, Brickell, Coconut Grove, and south of 5th, which is in Miami Beach, in South Beach. It's a very special area if you've ever been down there. Let's jump right into the numbers. And right away, if we go down to that last row, which is the percent change between second quarter and third quarter, we just saw that graph for the single family homes. Now we have the graph for the condos. Right away, we could see a lot more red, which means down, versus what we just saw for single family homes. Across the board, excuse me, downtown Miami was actually the one exception across the board that their sales increased from the second quarter to the third quarter. It went from 115 to 122. Price per square foot went up slightly, about 2%. But let's look everywhere else. In Brickell, the number of sales was down 16%. Pricing actually inched down 4%. Coconut Grove, we kind of consider that about the same. You've got 75 to 74, and then the pricing off just a bit, not even 1% down. So that held pretty steady. South of 5th, excuse me, huge decrease in number of sales from 63 to 31, and the price, which is 50% less sales than the second quarter. And if you look at the price per square foot, that also went down. So right away, we're seeing a lot more red, a lot more decreases in number of sales and in pricing in the condo market. Let's jump to the next graph that compares 2023 to 2024 in the same market here for condos. Here we go. So here's our second graph for condos. This one compares 2023's third quarter to this year, 2024's third quarter. Let's jump right in. Let's go straight to that bottom row, the percent change from last year to this year. And again, compared to single family homes, a lot more red in the table here for condos. Look at downtown Miami. It went from 133 sales last year to 122, 8% decrease. Pricing pretty much held steady. In Brickell, it went down from 274 to 235. We consider the pricing pretty much holding steady. Coconut Grove actually was the only one that had a huge increase in the number of sales from 56 to 74. Pricing decreased slightly. And the last one, south of 5th, the number of sales decreased dramatically from last year from 50 to 31, which is about 38% decrease. But look at the price per square foot, jumped up 25%. So let's jump into our summary now to kind of wrap things up for you. and let you know where this market is headed. Here we go. In summary, right now in Miami real estate, it's a tale of two markets: single family homes and condos. For homes, the demand is still very strong and pricing is holding on. For condos, we've seen demand along with prices starting to decrease. We feel the biggest drag on the condo market is something that we've highlighted in prior videos. It was a new law that was passed known as the SB 4D, also known as the Condo Safety Act, which has brought on new rules and regulations, and most importantly, the Structural Integrity Reserve Study, which needs to be completed by December 31st of 2024. This has brought on huge increases in monthly maintenance fees, as well as forced some special assessments in buildings throughout Miami-Dade County and the entire state of Florida. Due to all the uncertainties around this study, especially those that haven't completed it yet, it's truly brought demand down and is also dragging on prices now. We feel this will continue to put downward pressure on the condo market for the foreseeable future until we can get this behind us. In general though, the Miami real estate market is strong. It's just sensitive to price. You have to understand that we're coming off of 2 years of historic pricing increases where prices in some areas doubled and even tripled in value. And then all of a sudden, interest rates went from 3 and 4% and they jumped up to 7 to 8%. At the same time, we must say the demand off of those 2 years at historic levels, the demand has slowed down a bit, and it's bringing things back to a more normal pace of sales in the real estate market. As we've said in prior videos, we are in a correction, and this is typically what you see. We're still trying to find where this leads us to. What we can say from being in the markets daily is that if you price your property correctly, it's going to sell in under 30 days. If you don't, it's going to sit on the market. We've started to notice days on market increase for those properties, which is a huge indication that you are overpriced. As a matter of fact, you probably won't even get phone calls. Nonetheless, people coming to see your property. This goes for both sales and rentals. As I was taught years ago, the market will speak to you. You just have to be willing to listen. We've seen some properties extremely overpriced, and therefore they're just sitting on the market for months and months. The next thing we want to highlight, listen, having been in the real estate market for 18 years, we've been through a few presidential election cycles and can tell you from experience, leading into a presidential election, the real estate market slows down. People hold off on big purchases and big moves due to all the uncertainty. What we have seen is that once the election comes and we get that behind us, we typically see a pickup in the market. We actually feel that this year, that coupled with the lowering of interest rates, will kickstart the fourth quarter and 2025 as well. Lastly, we recently came off of 2 major hurricanes hitting the state of Florida back to back, Helene and most recently Milton. Both have been very destructive storms that could not have come at a worse time, as the last couple of years in the state of Florida, we had seen huge increases in insurance premiums. And finally, in 2024, we started to see those premiums slightly decrease. Now, unfortunately, with all the damage that these 2 storms have caused, we feel it's not only going to cause insurance companies to leave the state of Florida, but in turn, that will cause rates to increase again. Maybe not right away, but for 2025 and beyond. With all of that said, we know it was a lot, but we had to cover it for you. I'm Jose Laya. I was born and raised right here in Miami, and I've been in the real estate market for 18 years. We love making these videos to put the information out there for you and provide you with value. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to help. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.